So tonight we want to talk about something just a topic that I think is very important, and it deals with what we do, why we do what we do. We want pets to thrive, and that's the subject of tonight's broadcast. Is your pet surviving or is it thriving? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I don't know how many of you realize it, but there is a governmental body. Um, it's called AAFCO. It's AAFCO. And AAFCO stands for Association of American Feed Control Officials. We look to them. Every pet food company looks to them for minimum and maximum requirements of pet foods, meaning what is the maximum amount of protein that can go into dog food safely, according to AAFCO? What is the maximum amount of protein that can go to cat food safely, according to AAFCO? What is the minimum? What about same thing for fat? What about for fiber? What about for this mineral or that vitamin or whatever it might be? All right. And so they have now a complete list, and that list I think is always changing, not like every day, but or even every year, but will always be changing. Whether when science reveals that okay, this nutrient is very important, and we must consider this what we would call an essential nutrient. So now we can mandate to all the pet food companies, hey, if you're making a dog food or a cat food, you need to include this, or else we cannot put our stamp of approval on you. All right. And so that's in a nutshell who AAFCO is. AAFCO goes a little step further, and they set the definitions for things that are in your pet food. So when you're reading these terms on the bag, you can actually go to AAFCO and you can get the definition. It's like at a Webster's dictionary. You can get the definition for that term. And now, just because you get the definition doesn't mean that it's setting a standard of quality. They have set minimums and maximums for what is necessary for a pet to live. Okay, that's the subject of tonight's broadcast. Is your pet thriving or surviving or thriving? Now, if they're just living, they're surviving. Right? They're not thriving. They're just alive, and we're glad our pets are alive, but they're not necessarily thriving. What we might get a hold of, and what I'm going to try to convey in this call, is that those minimums and those maximums of protein, fat, fiber, vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, all that stuff can actually sustain life. Now, a dog's genetic potential, I learned this with this company. I learned with Dr. Jane Bix and the founders that one of the reasons this company, Life's Abundance, was started, because it was the idea and the concept that we want to help pets live to their full genetic potential. Well, what is a pet's full genetic potential? Well, I don't know if we really know, but the research that we do have shows us that a dog can live up to 25 years old, genetically speaking. That is what they have the potential to do. Now, a cat has the genetic potential of living up to 30. And of course, it does depend on the breed, and it does depend on some environmental factors, and everything being equal, that's their genetic potential. Okay. So now if I'm a pet food company, most people don't know that, by the way, because anybody in America these days with a pet doesn't expect their pet to live past 13, 14, 15, right? And that would be exceptional in most people's minds. Why is that? Well, I think that is mainly because we have lowered the standard down from the genetic potential to what we commonly get now from the minimum requirements of essential nutrition in these pet foods based on AAFCO. All right. And we're not. So if I'm Old Roy, or I'm Pedigree, or I'm Beneful, I'm following the law, and I am doing what I'm supposed to do to make your pet live to be about 11 to 12 years old. Now, your pet may have dandruff his whole life. Your pet may be shedding hair like crazy their whole life. Your pet may not be able to walk up and down the stairs after 3 years old. Your pet may be chewing their red paws to death because they're so itchy and scratchy. They may have ear infections all the time and red ears and just be pawing away at those ears. Their teeth might be falling out. And you name it, whatever else might be going on with pets. But that's what they do. Because they're getting all this. And some of you, I was reading a comment a minute ago. I'll get back to the comments. I think one of you put, anybody put sawdust, or was I reading something? But one of you put, Nadine, some of those really cheap dog foods have sawdust in them. That's not all they have. They have things like propylene glycol. They have things like roadkill. I think one of you put roadkill in here, which is legal to do, by the way. There's all kinds of things that go into pet food. And these are the things that are causing your pet all of those nutritional deficiencies. But there's enough vitamin and mineral content. Are you with me on this? There's enough vitamin and mineral content for them to live and survive, but not thrive. All right. Now, let me move on from that and give you something else to consider. There sounds like issues with us humans. Thank you, David. That really helps me transition into what I'm about to say next. How many of you know that obesity is termed an epidemic in this country? And how many of you know that over 30% of all of our pets are obese? Now, why is that? Why the correlation? Well, because we're eating so poorly. You as a person are probably eating very poorly. You say, well, not me. I try to do, well, you can try all you want, but the grocery stores aren't doing you any favors. The people who prepare our pet foods are people who prepare our foods. If you're buying anything processed at all, they're not doing you any favors either. And we are coming up with so many illnesses in this country based on nutrition. But anyway, I don't want to get into the human side. I want to stay with the pet side. And this is happening in the pets. All right. So Dr. Jane used to give this illustration, and she used to talk about a meatloaf. And she'd say, now, look, you could go to McDonald's and you could get them to make you a meatloaf. And they could make it with all beef, right? 100% pure beef. And they could put, fresh ground onions and peppers and whatever you put in a meatloaf. And they could put their spices in there and it could sound wonderful. Or you could go to grandma's house, who's been baking and cooking for her family for the last 70 years or whatever, 60 years. And, grandma's secret recipe with only the finest beef and farm raised and grown veggies that go in there, spices that were grown out her back door in the window that she picked herself and ground up and put specially in there, because with all the love that grandma can put into that meatloaf. Now at McDonald's, they put that meatloaf in the oven, in the microwave oven, and baked that thing so that at least it was hot and ready. But at grandma's house, she put it in her oven with the perfect temperature and the perfect amount of time, watching it all the way, pouring the gravy or whatever you put all over that made it, so special. And now when they both come out of the oven, their both ingredient labels read very identically. But which one would you rather eat if you were given the choice, right? Grandma's or McDonald's? Now that leads me into another thing I want to mention tonight, and that is there was a documentary put out in 2004, and I think many of you, if you were around in 2004, are very aware of this, and it was called Super Size Me. And let me just read this guy, Morgan Spurlock. He was a documentary filmmaker, and he decided that he was going to eat nothing but McDonald's for the next 30 days. And part of the rules for that was that he would eat 3 square meals a day from McDonald's, no other food from any other place. And this included, by the way, whatever beverages McDonald's serves, which is typically Coca-Cola, And so he had to eat every single item on their menu. So he couldn't avoid anything that they served. So he had his breakfast, he had his lunch, and he had his dinner there. And he was trying to prove a point. Could Americans survive on a diet of McDonald's? Now, listen, we just got through telling you, McDonald's, if you watch their ads, boy, they're 100% pure beef, nothing but the best for you here at McDonald's. And, look, they show you the pictures, right? Just like Beneful does of all the wonderful things falling down inside the Beneful bag in their commercials. And you see those fresh pickles, that lettuce, that tomato, that red, ripe, juicy tomato they put right on top of that burger, and those onions, and then that 100% pure beef patty. And so you're thinking, well, what could be wrong with that? Well, let me just read a couple things that about that movie that I jotted down for us tonight. Morgan Spurlock gained in 30 days, he gained 24.5 pounds. You know, that's almost a pound every day. Then he found himself experiencing depression. He claimed that he claims that his bouts of it, along with the lethargy and the headaches that he was getting, could be relieved if he just ate more McDonald's food. So what his doctors described was happening with him is that he was becoming addicted to probably most likely the chemicals and all the stuff, that junk that was in that food. And if he didn't eat that food, he would experience these withdrawals, and he would get headaches, and he would get lethargy, and he would get depression. Now, I wonder if this same thing is happening to our pets. You see, most of us can eat a McDonald's. We can be traveling. We could be just in a hurry. And we could say, oh my goodness, it's been 10 years since I ever ate a McDonald's. For me, it's probably been more like 15 or 20. It's been so long that I've ever eaten at McDonald's. But hey, one burger today isn't going to kill me. And you know what? You're right. One Happy Meal isn't going to kill you. Now, you may have a stomach upset. You may be back in the bathroom, when you get back on the job or back home. But, you'll survive. You'll make it, okay? Because you probably had a decent breakfast, and hopefully you'll have a decent dinner, or you'll just starve yourself for the rest of the day, and you'll purge yourself of that McDonald's meal. But at least you put some calories in your body. Now, think about our pets, everyone. Our pets are eating the same food every single day. And if our clients out there maybe they're not always buying Pedigree, maybe they switch to Beneful next month, and maybe they switch to Dog Chow the next month, and then Joy the next month, and then Old Roy the next month, because they love variety, right? But they're never going to spend the big money on their pets, because that would be crazy. Why would I do that? And here's the rub, I guess you'd call it, that the bag, the junk food that I just mentioned over here, says 100% nutritionally complete and balanced for the life of your pet. And then you've got the 2 times as much Life's Abundance dog food over here, and it says 100% nutritionally complete and balanced for the life of your pet. Well, wait a minute. This one is half as much, so I'll just buy the half as much because I'm an American. And guys, my pet's alive. I mean, my goodness, you're trying to tell me that my pet's going to die. My pet's alive. Yeah, but what's their quality of life? Are they obese? I don't know if you're like me. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you're worse than me, maybe some of you. But when I look and see some of these people's pets, and I see the obese pet sitting in front of me, and I see more than that. I don't just see a fat belly. I see bumps, tumors. I see scraggly teeth pointing in all the different directions. I see limping, dogs limping down the street with their pet owner. And these dogs are like 6 years old. I see bare spots. I see them scratching. Now that's a pet that's just surviving. And it makes me angry, really, to see that, because I'm thinking, why do you even have a pet? Right? Now I'll get into this idea of how much it costs in a minute, but this man, Morgan Spurlock, he put on almost 30 pounds in 30 days. And then we look at that and we see, and by the way, the Surgeon General is the one who called obesity an epidemic in this country. So it's a real deal. I mean, as people go into the doctor, and they say, if you don't know this, I did some research not too long ago because I was trying to lose a little weight myself. But I found out something I never knew. I found out that when you're 25 pounds overweight, you are considered obese. Now, I don't know if that's the right standard or not. Maybe it should be 30, 35. I don't know. I know that when I was 25 pounds overweight. And that startled me. I said, I'm obese. And I mean, I'm a tennis player, but doesn't matter, so I thought, man, I'm obese. So maybe it's a low number, but I knew I needed to change. I knew I needed to lose some weight. I was feeling terrible. And as I began to lose that weight, and I'm not going to get into my whole diet or anything, but as I began to lose that weight, I noticed a couple things changed. I noticed I didn't have the joint pain that I always got up out of a chair and felt like, you know how you get up out of a chair? That went away. And there were some other things that went away, a little bit more energy, which is typical. But imagine that translating into pets. Now think about what I'm saying. They eat the same thing over and over and over and over. So they're getting this mega dose. You say, well, there's only a little bit of bad in there. Maybe there's something that's not so perfect. What's the harm? Well, they're eating it every day. Now, here we come along, and this is the question now. I'm going to try to give you guys a little nugget here. Okay, I'll wind this thing down because I think I've made my point about the idea of surviving or thriving. It's what we do, all right? If you don't know it, it's what we do. We want to see pets thriving. And you know what? If you see pets thriving, or if the pet owners see their pets thriving after switching to Life's Abundance, I guarantee you are going to have an income for a long, long time. And you can feel good about it because you know that you helped that person. It's not that you're just trying to get their money. If you want their money, go ask them for money. It's not that. You are actually trying to help the person. And in doing that, you get paid because that's what we do. And so we go to people and we ask a very simple question. We of course we do the Healthy Pet Challenge, but along the way during that, one of the questions you might find yourself asking people is, if there was a pet food that could help your pet live a longer, healthier, happier life and avoid trips to the vet's office and avoid pharmaceuticals, would you be interested in it? Would that be something that you would buy? And I have to believe, and I do believe from over 20 years of experience being here, that people generally want that. They want a pet food that could help their pet live a longer, healthier, happier life. Now, the little nugget that I want to give you is this. If people say yes to that, your next question to them to set their expectation would be then, would you be willing to spend a little bit more money to see that happen? Now, I learned that years ago from the founder of our company. He told me, I always have tried to spend my time trying to justify our price and trying to, whittle it down, which we do. We can whittle that price down to price per feeding and price per pound. And we can show people, hey, look, it's really not that expensive. It's only $1, $1.25, $1.50, $2 a day to feed your pet some amazing nutrition, right? You can't feed yourself amazingly for $2 a day. Now that's all good and well, but I have come to the point here recently where I'm kind of switching gears a little bit. And I'm going to ask people from now on, if how much would you be willing to spend to keep your pet out of the vet's office? How much would you be willing to spend to have your pet live another year or 2 or 3 or 5? How much would you be willing to spend if I could eradicate all the, the scratching and itching and lethargy and obesity in your pet by just switching to a better food? How much could you spend? $5 more a month? Could you spend $10 more a month? Would you spend $15 more every month? I mean, put that in perspective, right? $5 a month, $10 a month and then we can get into the cost per day and we can justify, where that money's coming from. But guys, realize this. It's just the difference between this garbage food that you're feeding now and what Life's Abundance costs. The difference is all we're talking about. Okay, so you're already spending money on pet food, right? It's established. You're already spending money. Would you spend $5 more, $10 more, $20 more every month? I'm not telling you to buy something you're not buying. I'm talking about the difference with the idea in mind of what we're talking about, surviving or thriving. Now, here's something that I'm going to tell every one of you that may hopefully get you to think that we're not in the business, because this really hurts people. this really puts some of your business on ice, and I want to get it off of ice, and I want to put these thoughts in your head tonight. We're not in the business of saving people money. That may be a revelation to some of you. You may be thinking, well, nobody wants our food because they're so expensive. Well, then you're going about it wrong. We are not in the business of saving people money. Do you know that Mercedes-Benz is not in the business of saving car owners money? BMW is not in the business of saving automobile owners money. Cadillac, you name it, okay? You go down the list. Ruth Chris Steakhouse is not in the business of saving you money. Neither is other high-end restaurants that you've gone to for your anniversary or whatever it is, right? And you're going there for an experience. You're going there for a gourmet meal. And, you know, theme parks aren't in the business of saving you money. So you got to put yourself in the mindset of this idea that, listen, guys, don't get discouraged and don't be out there trying to sell people on price because you're already coming from a wrong vantage. We are trying to help pets thrive. We want to help. We truly want to help pets live longer, healthier, happier lives and stay out of the vet's office and get off the prescriptions that they're on. We want to do that for the difference in price. How much more would you be willing to spend to get that quality of life for your pet? Now, we are in the business of selling, and I think it was already said here because I'm just glancing, we are a premier pet product line. We are in the business of selling quality. We are in the business of selling the Mercedes, BMW, Cadillac, you name it, Porsche experience. All right. We want you to have that kind of quality every time you get in that car and drive it down the road. We want you to feel like $1 million. All right. And we want every time you open up that bag and put it in your pet's dish, we want you to know and have the confidence that you are putting the best of the best food in front of them. Safety is not a concern. Quality is not a concern. Nutrition is not a concern. And just putting a smile on my face every time I feed my pet. I mean, how much is that worth, right? And so that's what we're selling. We're selling nutrition. We're selling a higher quality of life. We're selling a higher product line. And if you can get that and you can convey that to your potential client, they will appreciate it. And they will get their mind off of the fact that price is my main concern, because that's one of the things we deal with first and foremost. Of all the concerns that come up, price is one of the number one, if not the number one. But just be aware that pets and pet food are made. They're made for pets to live. So when you hear this idea that, well, you know what, John? I mean, they're feeding Diamond, which is kind of what we'd all call a middle of the road food, or they're feeding, Iams or Eukanuba, or they're feeding, whatever you want to name, and their pets are doing all right. Yeah, they will, because of the standards that our country has put through AAFCO to make sure that they're getting a certain amount of protein, fat, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. And that will help them to live, but it won't help them to thrive. So guys, I'm going to part with these words with you. If there's any questions, please shoot them in now. But if not, I'm just going to part with this thought that you are in the business of selling quality. And when I go to the grocery store, try to buy. I don't buy the bargain brand. I buy the good stuff, the stuff that I can afford to buy, the best I can. All right. I'm discerning like that. And we know one thing about pet owners. Pet owners treat their pets better than they treat themselves. They say that. So let's hold to that standard. All right. And let's just assume going out there that they want the best and sell it as the best. Okay. It's not that, and I'm sure you're trying to do that already, but make sure when it comes to talk about the price, say, well, listen, how much are you willing to spend to help your pet get rid of all these nutritional deficiencies? How much are you willing to spend? How much of a difference are you willing to spend? $10, $20 difference to make sure that your pet is living a longer, healthier, happier life, so that they're not just surviving on your pet food and having all these issues, but that they're thriving. One of the things that Morgan Spurlock experienced during his 30 days on McDonald's, our pets are years on this stuff. one of the things he was depression, and that lethargy that he was experiencing, that like lifelessness. Imagine now then what our pets' mental states are when we feed them this garbage every day, all the time. All right. So that's what you're out there trying to change. That's what Dr. Jane, the founder, one of the founders of our company, always said was her mission. Her mission was to help pets live longer, healthier, happier lives. And if you do something like that as a mission, then you're going to get paid for it. All right. It's just inevitable that people are that message is going to resonate with them. And that confidence that you have in our product line is going to come across as well. You're not going to come across as apologetic or I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, I can see your pet's already living and doing well. I mean, what was I thinking to even offer you our products? We don't want that mindset. All right. All right. I'm done. Lest I repeat myself, I should be done. So I'm looking here. I have been looking. A lot of you just concurring with me. That's great. I appreciate it. I know you're all on the same page. And one of you just said, that's my mission too. It's already past me, but that I'm sure it is. Okay, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you again next Monday. Have a great night. We'll see you then.